So you've been diving into this whole idea of blossoming.
Love that.
Yeah. And we've got this transcript for your deep dive.
Okay.
And it's super unique. It
Okay.
compares personal growth to a recipe.
Interesting.
Get ready for some seriously practical wisdom here.
Okay.
Because it's not like your typical book.
Right.
It's like we're eavesdropping on this spiritual gathering led by someone named Patina.
And what's interesting about that is how she uses this
Go on.
everyday idea of a recipe
Yeah.
as a metaphor for living a more fulfilling life.
Yeah.
You know, it makes it feel really accessible.
Totally. Like I'm no master chef of life or anything.
Right.
But I can follow a recipe.
Exactly.
And this transcript talks about having the right ingredients, the right tools,
Yeah.
and even the right attitude.
Oh, for sure.
But hold on.
Okay.
Before we even get to those,
Yeah.
there's something Patina calls
What's that?
flowers of love.
Okay. What is that all about?
Well, listen.
So it's essentially like the end goal
Okay.
of this whole life recipe, you know,
Okay.
like what it's all leading towards.
I'm listening.
These flowers of love represent a life that's lived with purpose and deep connection,
I like it.
which like really clicks with everything you've been talking about
Yeah.
with wanting a more fulfilling life.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Good.
So if these flowers of love are like the end goal here,
Yeah.
what is the very first ingredient we need to throw into the mix?
Purpose.
Okay.
It's like the foundation of the whole thing.
Right.
But we're not just talking about like setting goals, you know,
Yeah.
or checking things off your to-do list.
Right.
Patina's talking about a much deeper sense of why here,
Okay.
like your unique reason for even being here.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Like it's about figuring out what you're really passionate about,
Totally.
what gets you out of bed in the morning. Yeah.
Exactly.
With a real sense of purpose.
Yeah. And in fact, the transcript
Go on.
actually encourages you to ask yourself some pretty tough questions
Okay, such as.
to uncover that purpose.
Okay.
Like, what are you deeply drawn to?
Okay.
What kind of impact do you want to have on the world?
Mm-hmm.
What feels like inherently meaningful to you?
Those are good questions.
Right.
Definitely worth thinking about.
Yeah.
But then there's this other ingredient that Patina adds that feels like such a curveball.
What's
That world weariness paired with the joy of belonging. Now, how does that work?
I don't know. It feels like a contradiction.
Yeah, it does.
It's interesting, though.
Tell me more.
It's one of the more, I don't know, intriguing aspects of her teaching, I think.
Yeah.
And it really speaks to this importance of embracing nuance.
Okay.
Like, she's not saying we should all become cynical
Right.
or jaded,
Of course not.
but just to acknowledge the world's complexities, you know?
Yeah.
The good, the bad, everything.
For sure.
I
Okay,
think-
so it's about acknowledging that messiness.
Yes,
But not letting it, like, extinguish that spark of joy.
exactly.
Mm.
It's about finding joy, not in spite of all the challenges in the world,
Right.
but actually because of them.
Wow, I like that.
You know,
Yeah.
like even in the midst of all the struggles,
Mm-hmm.
there's beauty and connection
Totally.
and a sense of belonging to something so much greater than ourselves.
That actually reminds me of a time when I was feeling totally burnt out from this job
Really?
that I thought was like my dream job.
Wow.
And it turned out that the things I actually loved about it
Yeah.
were just a tiny sliver of the whole thing.
Oh, wow.
And it took stepping back
Yeah.
and feeling that world weariness
Right.
to realize that my joy was
Wow.
actually in the creative process itself,
Yeah.
not like climbing the corporate ladder or whatever.
Wow.
Which is interesting, right?
Totally.
Because it shows how crucial it is
Yeah.
to really nail those initial ingredients in
Yeah.
our life recipe. 100%. It really is.
So we've got our purpose simmering away.
Okay.
We're embracing like
Yeah,
the bittersweet realities of the world.
right.
What is the next ingredient that Patina adds to this whole mix?
Okay. Well, this is where she gets surprisingly practical.
Really?
Yeah, she starts talking about a clean pan.
What?
I know, right?
Out of left field.
It seems a little out of place at first.
Totally.
Yeah.
Not exactly what I was expecting.
Right.
We were talking about like personal growth and flowers of love and all that.
Right.
So what's the deeper meaning there?
So she explains
Go on.
that this clean pan
Yeah.
actually represents our relationships.
Really?
Like all of them.
Okay.
The ones with ourselves,
Yeah.
with other people,
Mhm.
the world around us.
And just like how a dirty pan can really like mess with the
Yeah,
flavor
yeah.
of whatever you're cooking in it.
Totally.
She's saying that unhealthy relationship dynamics can also really impact
So,
our ability to really give and receive love.
Interesting.
Like fully, you know?
Okay, I'm starting to see how it all connects.
Right.
So it's not necessarily about having these like
Why?
perfect, spotless relationships.
No, not at all.
But being mindful.
It's about the energy,
Okay.
that we're bringing to them.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
So how do we do that?
What do you mean?
Like, how do we approach these cleaning up conversations in a way that feels like constructive
Yeah.
as opposed to confrontational?
That's a really good question.
Because it can be tricky.
It can be really tricky.
There's no easy answer, is there?
There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Right.
But Bettina does offer up
What?
a few helpful suggestions.
I'm listening.
She really stresses the importance of self-reflection first,
Okay.
like understanding our own needs, our own patterns,
Right.
and even our own potential biases.
Okay.
You know, before we even start pointing fingers at someone else.
Oh, totally. Like that
Something
saying,
like that.
when you point one finger, there are
Yeah.
3 fingers pointing back at you. Or
Exactly. It's about taking ownership
Yeah,
of our part in all of it.
totally.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So from there,
Yeah.
it's about approaching those conversations.
Which ones?
All the tough ones.
Right.
But with compassion, both for ourselves
Yeah.
and for the other person.
Absolutely.
It's not about placing blame,
Yeah.
but more about how do we clear the air
I see.
and create a foundation
Yes.
for the relationship to really grow from.
Right, like hitting the reset button.
No.
Acknowledging that, like,
What?
yeah, things got a little messy, but we can start fresh.
And it's in that very act
It's going.
of cleaning up,
Yeah.
letting go of all the old patterns
Mm-hmm.
and resentments and all that,
Right.
that we create this space
Okay.
for something new to emerge.
What's that?
A more authentic
Yeah.
and loving connection.
And that ties back so beautifully to
Okay.
the whole flowers of love idea.
Exactly.
They need a healthy environment to thrive in, right?
They-
Okay, but even with all the right ingredients
Yeah.
and a clean pan and all that,
Right.
don't we still need a little heat to really get things cooking? It's like when you know you've got to clean out the fridge,
Oh, tell me about it.
but it's so much easier to just ignore it.
Right. Like those wilted veggies in the back?
Exactly. And Bettina talks about how that heat
Right.
is actually essential
Sure.
for transformation,
Interesting.
even though it can be uncomfortable sometimes.
Oh, absolutely.
So how do we actually approach that heat in our own lives?
That's the question, isn't it?
Because let's be real,
Okay.
most of us would rather reach for the ice pack
Totally.
than the hot sauce when things get a little uncomfortable.
For sure.
So what does Bettina say?
Well, she actually encourages us to actively seek discomfort.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, instead of just fearing it all the time.
Okay.
Like to lean into challenges,
Interesting.
to question our limiting beliefs,
Okay.
and even confront those parts of ourselves.
What parts?
You know, the shadow parts
Oh,
that we usually just keep hidden.
Wow, that's pretty counterintuitive.
It is,
Yeah.
but it makes sense if you think about it.
How so?
Because running away from the heat,
Yeah,
it only prolongs things.
that's true.
Right.
Okay, so we're talking about like
What kind of thing?
trying new things that stat us a little bit.
Yes,
Having those tough conversations that we've been avoiding.
exactly.
And really taking a look at our own patterns.
yes. And all of our insecurities.
It's like that saying, the only way out is through.
Right.
But after the heat comes the best part,
What's that?
getting to savor the flavor
I like that.
of all that we've created.
The fruits of our labor.
Bettina talks about tasting your life.
Okay.
What does that even mean?
It's about presence.
Being present.
Yeah, like fully present
Okay.
in every single moment instead of,
Rushing towards some outcome in the future.
Yeah.
Or dwelling on all the past mistakes we've made.
right. I get it.
It's just like when you savor a delicious meal,
Okay.
you slow down,
Yeah.
you really engage all your senses,
Mhm.
and you appreciate every single bite.
Okay, so savoring in like the personal growth sense would look like
Give me an example.
celebrating the small victories,
Yes.
learning from the setbacks,
Yes.
and not letting them completely derail us.
Exactly.
It's about appreciating the entire journey.
The whole thing. Even the messy parts.
Absolutely.
That's such a relief to hear.
Really?
Because I'm definitely someone who gets so focused on the next goal
What happened?
that I totally forget to actually enjoy the process.
I think a lot of us do that.
Yeah, this whole concept of savoring is really powerful.
It is because when we spend so much time focusing on the future,
Yeah.
we miss out on the present moment.
Which is really all we have, right?
It's the only moment we can actually control.
This has been amazing.
It has.
Cultivating our own flowers of love.
Yes.
It's a process.
With a lot of different elements.
It's like a recipe, right?
It is.
With unique ingredients, maybe a little bit of heat.
A dash of heat.
And definitely some savoring the flavor along the way.
It makes it so much more enjoyable.
But creating a life that's full of purpose and connection and joy.
It's worth it.
It's totally worth the effort.
It is. And remember, this is your recipe.
And your journey.
Exactly.
What would it look like to approach your life?
I love that.
With that same kind of unwavering focus.
Yes.
And openness as a flower in bloom.